All right. Hello to all our listeners. This is a brand new podcast between me and my one of my great friends from Vanderbilt University, Bill Drake. Really, his real name is William. I'm just reading from what you typed in right over there. My bad. But really, it's just this will be our first episode, and I think this was a long time coming. Like, wouldn't you say? Like, I think we spoke about this maybe a year ago or maybe a couple of years ago. They were like, we should do a
Before that
podcast.
too, because
I
you
think
in senior year of college, you brought it up.
Yeah. And then I was like, I don't know why we never started. We're like, and you're like, I'm down. And I was like, I'm down. It's like one of those things in the group, like the guys trip. You're like, all right, let's go to Singapore. Let's go to Asia or something. Like, I'm down. And then nothing happens. And it's just like how that happens. But,
No, but it
I
made it
think
out the group chat finally.
it made it out of the group chat. I think the stars align with everything going on in our lives. I mean, now I just heard from you yesterday. You're in a nice, stable place. I'm about to get into a nice, stable place. Thank you. Um, but really, I'll just kind of read off here. I think the why, like, why do we want to start this? Like, what is the reason of these two dudes? And we'll introduce ourselves, of course. Like, we definitely have some credentials, but like nothing to speak about like anybody's experiences. This is just more a reflection of us chatting every week, and hopefully one person or two or maybe hundreds of thousands can pick up and have our experiences and take it to their lives. But I think what I was kind of drafting up here is like, we live in a day and age that we're glued to our devices more than anything in the world around us. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm like, Instagram Reels. Nah, like this, my time just goes away. It's crazy. But I miss this technological revolution. Like even with AI, information is more apparent and ready, available than ever. Medicine, knowledge, it's at our grasp, and I think that's such a beautiful thing, but something that's very daunting. And a lot of times, like even though we're like so well connected with social media and this is well established, some of us, especially in our younger, we feel lonelier. We feel like we can't buy housing, or we were less wealthy than our parents. We could be more unhealthy than the people came before us too. And compound this with like just getting out of college, and you think about like what am I doing with my life? It can be very overwhelming in a crazy time. And so we're making the podcast for those people, and I was one of them. I'm sure Bill was one of them too. That feel you might be lost, you might be broken, you might be figuring things out, or you might just be at all cylinders firing and it's just super successful. But we just hope sharing our story and reflections gives us a chance to pause on a weekly basis, let us relax, laugh, or even learn a thing or two. And with that, I think we get started with, I think, where the name is still coming. We wanted to do Vandy Bros, but I think we're going to get slapped in the wrist by some copyright problems. So I think right now, what are we landing on? Midwest Bros?
Midwest Pros sounds good.
Midwest Bros. All right. It's like,
Assuming it's not already taken.
what's the one on the TV? It's House Hunting Bros. There's like a brotherly pair that like does some house hunting or something like that. I forget.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I have no idea. For some reason, my mind went to the Venture Brothers, which is a
The event.
very different vibe. It's kind of like
uh,
I haven't watched it, but my understanding is it's kind of like BoJack Horseman, but with the superhero theme. So
hmm. Okay. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Well, we'll do Midwest Bros for now, and then like the thing is, we're both in the Midwest. I'm in Minnesota right now, and I guess we don't want to talk ourselves, but Bill is somewhere in this Midwest side of the country, and for that we said Midwest. But I feel like life is ever changing, and one of us could be gone in an instant to another part of the country or another country. Um, and so we'll see how long this name sticks. But for now, I think it's a good name. But
No, I
with
think it's a
that,
great name.
I'll let you introduce yourself, Bill. Like, I think the major question is like, who you are, like where you came from, I don't know, like any main things. You could also say like how we met. I think that's also a pretty cool story. I don't even remember, to be honest with you, but I think it's a pretty cool
Oh,
story.
really? I
Yeah.
distinctly remember how we met.
Really? I
Okay,
don't remember at
yeah,
all. I don't. Was it
yeah,
math? Was it math calculus?
yeah, yeah. It was
Oh, okay.
in our first calc class. Yeah, I can
Wait,
tie this in.
was it with the
So,
professor that like didn't let me turn in my homework? Oh my god.
yeah. So I'll do my intro and I'll just tie it into that story then. So my name is Bill. I'm from New Hampshire originally, and then I went to Nashville for college. So that's how Kenny and I actually met. The way we met was we were in this like intro calc class, very very much like a you just got to show up, like try and figure everything out, but like it's such a hard math class because it's like kind of a weed out structure
Yeah.
that everybody was just kind of going through it. So the way that we met was I was in the back. I was hanging with one of my close friends that I met like at the very beginning of college, who actually you and I are much closer than him now. and you made some comment about the homework, and then the professor said like, "Oh yeah, it's totally fine. Like you can turn it in on Friday. Like not a big deal at all." So Friday comes around, you go to turn in your homework, and she says you can't turn it in right now. And then we're all just sitting there in the class like, "You what? This is, like, totally a contradiction." And so, rightfully so, you're a little bit upset, and you're just like, "This is stupid." So you're sitting, like, one row ahead of me, and then I got up at the very end of the class, and I was like, "Yeah, man, you got screwed, like, I'm sorry." And then you kind of, like, said, like, "Yeah, I know, that sucks." We didn't talk for, like, another 4 weeks,
Wait,
and
really?
then yeah. And then, we met again through Abby, if you remember him.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
yeah, and so he connected us again because he wanted to start studying for some parts of math, and so that's how we met, and then we kind of hung out through the rest of, the Vanderbilt freshman experience up until COVID hit.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything exploded. Yeah.
Wait,
Mm.
can I add a detail to that story that
Yes.
so the whole point was that I think the homework was due like on Monday or Friday. Like it was due on a certain day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like due at the beginning of class. And like so just for those who don't know Vanderbilt, like they're kind of like they're kind of like separate campuses. Like there's a main campus, but all the freshmen live in a place called Commons. And it's like kind of a decent walk. It's maybe like 10, 12 minutes, especially from like where the math building was. And I went there. Like my homework was done. Like I don't slack off. Well, I don't in college, but and so I was like, I went to class and it was in a folder. It was in my dorm room, but I thought I packed it in my backpack. And so when I went there, it was like I think class started like 10 or 9. It was like early in the morning, and then it was like 9:55 or like 9:52. But like it's just basically that there's no time to come back there. So I went to the teacher. I was like, hey, like I did this work, like I did this assignment, right? And I was like, I just need to go back to my dorm room and like turn it in, right? And she's like, "Oh, that's fine, that's fine." And I was like, told her, I was like, that, like, I'm not. How it was like a lot of questions too. It was like you can't solve 30 or 50 integrals in like 10 minutes, but and then I like showing my work too. So, but she said it was fine, and then that's when I got in. Like, I mean, I didn't like speed, I didn't sprint back. Maybe I should have pulled in more effort and like hold myself to commons back. But I was like, okay. So I was like speed walking back. I grabbed it and I walked back. So it's like 20 minutes because it's like 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back, right? So it's like now it's like 10:10, right? Class started at 10. And technically, like by the I mean, she is right, but she also gave me the verbal confirmation that I could go back and just turn it in. It's like I got it and I was like, oh, and then I tried to turn it in. She's like, no, we can't accept it. And I was like, what? That was when I was like, Paul, I was like, but you know, we still got an A in the class, so everything was okay.
Oh, there you go.
But
I
I
think
was
I
so
turned in every
ups-
single one of my homeworks, and I still got to be in that class, so you did much better than me.
but I was so upset for that. I was like, why? It was just like someone just like not pulling the rug from you, but you're like, you said it was okay, and now it's not. But um,
That
great
one was
times.
also ridiculous just because, like, we lived in the digital age at that time, and every other class was accepting remote or, like, virtual submissions of the homework. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, "Really?" Like, we couldn't like, we were all required to get a PDF document, uploader so that you could, like, scan a document off your phone and then shoot it over via the portal that we used for school, for which I forget the name at this point. But it's like, why can't we just do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're getting off
Eh,
track of what we're supposed to
Yeah,
be
we're gonna
talking
try. My
about.
bad, my bad. It was a great story because I don't remember. I remember you were in Calc, and I remember we had like a one like teaching lesson in Stamba. I want to say it's the one right next to Sutherland. It's like the one across. Maybe not. It's like
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
We like
Yeah, yeah,
had. I
yeah.
remember it's because like people were really confused about like the not the eigenvalue but like the e value when you do limits, and I was like, but I was like, oh, like this made sense to me, so I wanted to teach it to you guys. But anyways, we're getting off track. Feel free to that was how we met, and obviously I think that friendship just carried forward all the way through senior year, right? I mean, like till now. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously. So,
I mean, you were one of the first people I hung out with when we got back post, like, the initial COVID outbreak. Like, you and I were, like, the first people to get lunch together, I feel like, from my friend group.
oh, okay, I did not know
Yeah,
that.
because I was rooming with somebody, and he and I were friends, but, like, you were the first person I really, like, hung out with after lockdown happened and we got back to campus, which was crazy.
Great times. That is where we
Yeah.
built the spike ball chemistry, man.
Oh my god. Don't even get me started on the spike ball chemistry. It's so good. But yeah, man. So life post grad, it's very different. It's drastically different, actually. How was your transition? Because you basically went into med school immediately afterwards. You didn't really have much separation.
Yeah. I don't know. I it felt like that was like probably the hardest part for me. Like, I feel like transitioning. I actually got pinged on one of my medical school interviews because they asked me the question. It was like, "What is one of the hardest what are one of the hardest things that you did in your life?" And I was like, I think I misheard the question and like I just like kind of came to like what did I struggle with? And I was like, oh, like the transition from like high school to college was very interesting. And then I remember the med school interviewer. He was like a surgeon, so like they kind of have more of the archetype of being like more serious. And he was like, "That's it." And I was just like, "My bad, my bad. That wasn't hard enough. That wasn't hard." And he's like, "I want you to think about that question again and tell me again what was your hardest part." And I was like, "Sheesh." Um, I was like, "Oh gosh," but I think the transition for me, I was struggling with because I still felt like I was in school, right? But medical school is very different from undergrad, where like everyone is kind of in the same stage of life. Like everyone in your undergrad is like 19 or 20, or they're in the young, they're in the young teens to 20s. And like kind of everyone's, at least at Vanderbilt, everyone's like new, like they're not from the area. I think they do a really good job of that. Like there's some people that know each other, but very few people do. And but in medical school, it's a bit different. Excuse me, where people are like in different stages of life. Like there are people that are married, there's people that are engaged. Like there's people that are in their 25s, 28s. I thought I went straight through. I thought it was like all my life. I was always the old one in my grade just because like where I was born. And then all of a sudden, like I'm a baby. Like everyone like has partners. Everyone had like is like established. Like they're just old. Not all old, but like they have experienced more life than I have, and to that degree. And so like I was like trying to like while I was in medical school, I still felt like I hung out at, like, a few different, like, undergrad groups, but then you feel, like, this disconnect because, like, you're not undergrad, but at the same time, you're also, like, medical school, but you're also so young, and, like, I think, like, I maybe met, like, 4 people that are my age out of a class that's, like, 170. So, like, I think that was, like, the biggest challenge for me. It was, like, not an I maybe it was, like, kind of an identity crisis because like, all of a sudden and then you get, like, all of a when you say you're going to medical school to an undergrad, right? There's like a whole like shift in behavior, and I'm like, I'm just still a young Kenny, man. I'm just attending school and medical school. There's no difference. But I think that was like the biggest shift, and it took me a little while, and I think that was really great. I found some like really great friends that in the frat house I lived in. It's a medical frat house. There's no like it's not like a college frat. Just need to clarify that. As well as some dental students, and I think that kind of helped because those dental students were kind of in the similar age of life. Those ones, well, one of them had a really like uh, they had a partner at the time, but the other one, like, kinda didn't, and we were just, like, all able to I still felt like they were, like, young, right? Some people are just, like when you, like, exit college, you're like, "This guy is, like, immature." Not immature, but he hasn't lived through life yet, and then I'm like, "You lived through too much life. I don't need to worry about my kids coming home. I don't have any kids," you know? And so it's, like, that huge disconnect, like, when you start spending time with people that, like, have families, but I think as I've grown through medical school, you kinda realize, like, that shared experience through life, and like even though someone's a bit different than you in that sense, like they have kids and stuff like that, it doesn't mean that you can't hang out with them. And I think like I have some friends that like have kids and are in their later stages of life, but it doesn't change how we interact. But I think that was like the biggest transition. Obviously, like for me, like I've always been a pretty studious person, so like the school didn't really change to an extent. I feel like yeah, there was more information and you just kind of get used to it. But I think the biggest thing for me was like kind of that social change.
Really heard. Yeah. Did you feel like you were able to adapt relatively quickly though?
I don't know. I don't even know about I can't like put a word on the speed of my adaptation. I think it just like kind of naturally mended itself. I feel like it did take some time. I would say it definitely felt some time because I remember sometimes I would feel like, "Oh, like do I belong here or like will I find like really like great friends?" And I think like really I think I had a question on that. And I kinda, like, came to my realizations and kinda acceptance of, like, the things that were going on, probably, like, the beginning of my 2nd year. So, yeah, it did take some time. I'd say, like, it took a year, and then I think I started to kinda find my group, find my fitting, and ever since then, it's been great.
What did you do specifically to find your I'm
That's
asking this intentionally.
No, that's great. That's a great question. I think there's, like, a few things. One is I think what takes me longer, but lets me have, like, really deep relationships is I am, like, very authentically myself. I try not to hide, like, who I am in front of people because like, if you do, you're just, like it's, like, hard, right? You're just, like, wasting time, and I think that's too is like, I think I remember I was, like sometimes I just, like, kinda leave out the fact that I'm in medical school just because like, the way it was getting responded to, and I was like, "But, like, that's who I am, right? Like, I don't know why I'm hiding this from people, like, I think it's fine." Um but I think that really helped me was also just, like, doing things I'm interested in. I think it was kinda hard because like, you know me, I played collegiate badminton for, like, 3 years at Vanderbilt, right? And then coming here was, like, completely like, I don't know anyone, like and then also, like, a large part of the badminton group just speaks Chinese, and so, like, my Chinese is really bad, and so it's, like, it's hard to communicate, but it's I think the 2 things is just doing the things I really enjoyed, being authentic now I'm saying 3, my bad, and then also just not being afraid to, like, introduce yourself, like, "Hey, my name is Kenny, like, I'm, like, new here, would you, like, wanna play a game?" Right? Because I think all these, like, relationships, you just don't know until you, like you kinda, like, meet the person, and I would say, like, yeah, I think through that, like, there's definitely some people that, like, are acquaintances in the badminton court, which is by no means anything bad, but then I met some really great friends through there, and, also, like, through other things, I think there's a new cohort that came after when I was MS2. So there's like kind of new people that lived in my house and new people I got to meet. And sometimes it's just kind of like it's just kind of a period of life. Sometimes you probably are going to struggle trying to find some friends, but at the same time, it doesn't mean like you can never find friends. And I think it's just like through time and just like circumstance, like I found people that I like that have very similar values to me, enjoy doing very similar things that and we enjoy each other's company and that one is just kind of like you still do the same things, like, just be yourself, reach out to people. That's probably the main thing. It even got to an extent, like, I was hanging out with people back from elementary school. I was like, "This is great." I mean, I just kinda saw them. We all live in the same area. I was like that was the thing. I was like and that's like we all played pickleball, and I was like, "Whoa." Like, we were in 2nd grade together, and, like, that's what broke me. I was like, "This is crazy." I would never imagine.
But you grew up in Minnesota, so, like, you had those connections where it was close versus when I came to the Midwest, I'm an East Coast kid, so very different. I happen to know people who I've, like, grown up with who are out here as well, but that's, like, a very unique situation, it's total serendipity.
Yeah.
So no, but
Well,
I think you're so spot on, like, you have to be authentically yourself. You have to be willing to, like, be okay with, like, not meshing with every other person just because they might just have, like, drastically different interests and concepts than you do about the world, which is okay. Like, that's the fun of it. That's the diverse aspect of the world. But, yeah, I strongly agree with you that, like, you gotta be you. I see people who, like, try and, like, pretend to be someone else, and it crashes and burns so quickly. So, the people I've made close friends with out here have usually been the people who are not afraid to, like, just be themselves and live the life that they want to pursue. And sometimes, like, you have ups and downs and not everything goes perfectly, but if they still come into it saying like, "I am Bill, I am Kenny," and then they go in with their interests and their morals and their values first, like, they'll be fine. So yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I wanted to ask you one other thing too,
yeah.
because the med school community, obviously, you guys are super intelligent, and you're doing something that's very unique and very challenging. Do
Mhm.
you do you feel like there is a wide variety of people who are going through just like different life experiences in the med school world, and because of that, they probably are also kind of struggling in unique ways? I asked that question poorly, but I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with it, and I think so. I think the hardest thing sometimes in the medical school is like you don't want to like show weakness per se, or like I don't know, like some people I feel at least this is my interpretation, and maybe it's just kind of like the people I like surrounded myself with and who I got a chance to talk to, and also it's kind of like I felt the same way to a certain extent, and then I now realize showing your weakness is kind of like obviously do it to the people that you know that can hold that dear, but like it's also a strength, right? And I think some people are, like, going through a lot of things, and I don't like, we had this whole big thing of, like, it's called the step 1, which is our boards, and there's like a lot of like delays that when people were taking it that like the school wasn't anticipating. I think it was probably a combination. They did like a whole root analysis, but that's a root cause analysis, but that's another conversation for another day. But I think to a certain degree is like, people are going through things that um is affecting them, right? And I think the hardest thing is that we don't create a space, or like the school tries to, and I think they do a good job of it, but like, it can always be improved in terms of just letting people share about their struggles. I think that's the biggest thing, and everyone's going to have those unique experiences, but like there's not a space to kind of like show that, right? And then when you do, it's kind of a question of like who do you share it with? Because like I don't know. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more collaboration, and a little bit more, how I say, touchy-feely stuff in medical school. A little bit of like, if you're struggling through something, like, go ahead and like share that with other people. I know some people that definitely had their things that were going on with their lives that made things hard, right? But I think the great thing is that we're all able just to go through it, and the school does support you a lot if you're going through something to like have that time and have the energy to kind of reset and make sure you're doing the right thing. Does that
Can I
answer your
ask
question?
you to elaborate? Well,
Yeah.
actually, I want you to elaborate on one key thing because I think
Yeah.
it ties in really nicely with my working experience and what I've
Mm.
seen in corporate America, which is that like piece of you're not able to show weakness, or it's dangerous necessarily to show weakness. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about that? Because I have an opinion on that, on from my
So
perspective.
sorry, you cut out my AirPods. Can you say that again?
Yeah, yeah. I want you to elaborate a little bit on showing weakness and
Ah,
how that has like manifested in the medical school world, because I see a very similar trend in corporate America, but I want to see your perspective first and then I'll share what I've seen.
interesting. I can only really speak for myself and maybe a couple other people. But I will keep it anonymous because this is a very public thing. But I think like showing weakness in that example, it's just like I'm not saying it's weakness. I think weakness is a bad example. It's just like what you're going through, right? And I think some people like really struggle with like all the information. You struggle with imposter syndrome. You start comparing yourself to an attending, which is like a doctor that's like 10 years out, and you're like, I'm nowhere as smart as that person. Or there's a person that's like grinding every day. Like we call it, there's something called, it's Japanese Anki, but like most people call it Anki, where they're like grinding their Anki cards and they just like know everything, right? And then you're like, yes, you're in like the same year as them, but then you start to feel like an imposter because of that. And then you like have less self-esteem, right? Less self-worth. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm not as smart here. I shouldn't be here. Like all these capable people around me, like I like it's imposter syndrome. And then it kind of cycles through. It's like, or like you're struggling through something. It's like I just can't study today. And then like because of how much the information is, you take a couple days off. You're like missing, I don't know, like 5, 10 diseases, and right, like learning of 5, 10 diseases and like kind of how they happen, what you do, the treatment plan of it. It's a lot of information. Um, so like all those things kind of like culminate into you're like, I'm struggling, right? And it can be very isolating that you feel because everyone else seems like they're firing in all cylinders, and you yourself is like, I am struggling. Um, and in that case, that's where it becomes really isolating and really hard to show. But I will say I think it's hard because like I think many of us are very prideful people. And the moment you let your ego go over or let your pride go over, you struggle even more. But what I've realized, like, either through the school, like, if you go to, like, school counseling or, like, just even your friends, like, sharing that, you're like, "Oh, I also am not under," like, you're like, "Do you not understand this?" Like, "Oh, I also don't understand this." Like, "Oh, it's not just me." Like, or you're like, "Oh, was that lecture confusing for you too?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then you have, like, that shared bond and shared experience. You're like, and also, like, kind of I think that's the biggest thing is, like, community, right? Um, and it's kinda hard because I would like half the time you just watch lectures at home, and so you don't see your community often. But, like, when you have that and like it's like being vulnerable. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you being vulnerable to something, like lets people be vulnerable back, and you actually grow from it and actually can be stronger because of it. I think there's like a time and place for it. Like they're like, you don't want to go be like in your surgery and like, I don't know how to do this. And they're like, your patient's awake. Like that's not the time to like do it right. But like a lot of times, like when you're practicing, when you're, I think a lot like medicine has this a lot of things where there's a lot of tr- a training period per se. I mean, and it's all training, but it's like a period for you to make mistakes. And I think while you're learning, you should be okay. And like, while for me, while I was learning, I should be okay to admit, like, I don't understand this. I am struggling with this. This doesn't make any sense to me, or the content's too fast, or I'm not sure how to do this, right? And the more I put that away, the more I got back from it. Unironically, it's like the strangest like paradox in life. Like you share more vulnerableness, and then you get more out of it. It's like, who knew? Who knew?
Yeah. The burden's off your chest, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's eloquently put because I see it pretty frequently in corporate America, and I have a couple different perspectives of this because I work in big tech, but I have friends and family who work in other aspects. I know people who work in finance. I know people who work in construction. So wide swath. And the thing that I'm seeing a lot right now is imposter syndrome is crazy. It's at an all time high, and some of that's fine. I think to an extent, like challenging yourself to be better is okay. But a lot of what I do see becomes very self-destructive, and people, it's like you said, they just don't have community or they don't know to express themselves to community. And they
Hmm.
feel that if they share that they're struggling with something or that they're not doing well, it's going to prevent them from getting a raise.
Hmm.
My counter to that is there are people who actually live by that. And I think a lot of that comes from just leadership and experience.
Hmm.
A lot of a lot of big tech companies are started by people who are young, which is fine. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Hmm.
success that can be driven from that, but a lot of them also have just tons of inexperience when it comes to managing a team and keeping a team strong and healthy, which is just going to lead to so much dysfunction. And I think that's my biggest complaint of corporate America right now is that they promote too, or rather, they promote managers too early. They don't
Hmm.
train managers appropriately, and they don't promote the people who can actually manage a team and build a team up for success. They're basically just doing it off of general performance, which is fine to an extent. Like you want a
Hmm.
high performer who's able to do the job in the first place, to be the role model, so to speak, for other people. But my counter to that is a lot of these people are workaholics, and that's all they know is they just know how to walk in and do this one thing really, really
Yeah.
well, which is great for the company. It produces good results. However, when you're trying to manage a team and someone's saying, I'm struggling with these personal things and it's difficult for me to separate work and life, which is why I don't know, 10% slower on production, then they're not going to be able to understand because they're going to say like, what do you mean? Like this is your life. Like this is all that matters.
Hmm.
And I've watched really, really high performers walk out of companies because
Wow.
their boss was just not able to understand and empathize with them at all, which I think is like the biggest fallacy. And I became a manager recently, and my critique was I got promoted too early. I was like, I shouldn't,
Hmm.
like, like it's not totally fair because I did study some of these philosophical concepts. Like I know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. I know how you're supposed to manage a team and build them up. And I know, you train people so that they can go somewhere else, but you treat them so that they won't. I understand that
Hmm.
philosophy.
Okay.
I totally get it. But I think a lot of young people are not taught that, or companies are like afraid that people will overcorrect and not be willing to hold people accountable, which is not what management is. So it's this weird dynamic that I think we're creating in corporate America where we
Hmm.
have these sky high expectations, and then also you're not teaching people the fundamentals of management to be actually able to lead a team to get some of those. And we could talk more about corporate philosophy another time, but yeah,
Hmm.
it is. I see the panic. And then to your other point, people are so glued to their screens. When they see somebody who's like 24, 25, they already have $12 million. They already just bought a Lamborghini. They say, "Come on, guys, buy my new free class." It's such a divisive thing where you're saying, "Shoot, I could do exactly what he's doing and spit the exact same advice. Why don't I have $12 million?" And it's like, well, okay, that guy is fake. He's not real. He's being he's a puppet. So I'm sorry, but yeah, it is tricky. And I think the good news is we have all the information out there for all of us to be able to make better decisions and understand
Hmm.
what's actually happening and how we're being manipulated. The
Hmm.
challenge is we're going to be manipulated from the second we get that device in our hands. So, you gotta find community in the real world is the best advice I can give, which is a little bit ironic that we're doing this virtually, but
Yeah.
we at least know we have a pre-existing relationship, so it's a little bit better.
Exactly. Hey, we could do an episode here, or we could do an episode where you are. Like it doesn't matter. We'll figure out the travel. You know what I mean? This is where sponsors. Like Delta is like sponsored by Delta because it has made this in a real person experience. I don't know. One of these days, we're not sponsored by Delta anyway. Delta, please do not sue us. But
I was gonna say my favorite John Mulaney bit is when he was complaining about airlines and he said, "I hate this garbage airline. Let's just make up a name of an airline. We'll just call it Delta Airlines." And I guess was able to get away with it because he said it's a fake airline.
it's a
So
fake airline. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no
Well, I'll
options
say
for us.
it's a pretty good airline. I don't want to sponsor one over the other, but I'm like, where I am, it's the hub, so it makes a lot of sense. But I
Unrelated
have
but kind of related. Have you
yeah,
seen the Spirit 2.0 guy?
no. Wait, there's a Spirit
Oh,
2.0 guy?
so I'll send this to you later because I think you'll find it interesting. So but when Spirit Airlines declared bankruptcy earlier this year,
Yeah.
after they declared bankruptcy, this guy was like, that's a real shame because they were the only like budget airline that was available for people, and for a lot of folks, that was the only way they were able to get home for big holidays, like
Hmm.
important family events. And so he said, "What if we all just collectively chipped in like $20 a piece?" Well, I guess a third of the price of a Spirit Airlines ticket. But what if you all just bought like a Spirit Airlines ticket, get like a couple million people to do that? Then we could theoretically buy Spirit Airlines and then keep it running. And it would just be a privately held company amongst the initial investor
Hmm.
group. And a bunch of people bought in. I actually signed up for the email train because I was curious. I was like, this sounds cool. And then yeah, he wasn't able to truly do it, but he's apparently still working on the project so that it could be a not publicly held, but publicly held company. I forget
Mm,
exactly what the description is, but I thought it was so cool. I was like, wow, this would be actually really fun. You could make a real startup airline essentially to replace Spirit Airlines after it went under.
yeah. I think that's real. I think I had a thought on your whole corporate story, but I'll respond to this one first. Of like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like sometimes we're missing. Like it's just my philosophy. Sometimes we overlook like what's more important for like humanity or relationships versus the bottom line, right? And I think because like you say, in corporate America, like a lot of that matters is the bottom line and what happens, right? But like, do you ever take a step back and say like, is this good? And sometimes we can see that in healthcare, where some of the decisions being made are more just like, oh, what's going to help our bottom line versus um, what is good for my patient. And I think that's like a big thing that like is a big question. But I was about to ask you, I was going to go back to your corporate leadership point. Well, that was the aside. I think why we get so well along when like in college and stuff, because we weren't afraid to like challenge each other's philosophies. And we also knew that we could also challenge our own. Like we'd read new things and we like always continuously grow. I think that's like a big thing. And I think that's why I was like, oh, we should start this podcast. Cause like your ideas are sometimes very different from my own. But a lot of times like there's like a mesh in between. Because I remember like we'd have these really deep talks in EBI or something like that while playing pool. And I was like, this should be useful. This should be very useful to listen to and like talk
Can I
about.
can I
But
interject quickly because it was
yeah,
you kicking my butt in pool.
no, it was
I
foosball.
think I had only
You
gotten one. Oh yeah,
really?
foosball
It
too.
was
You were just good with
foosball.
a lot of those games, I think.
Dude, I was a menace after those things. After the calc exams, going back to play foosball, that was my best memory. Like some of the best memories of college. That was really early on, but Um, what was I about to say? Oh, and my other comment to that too is like I think you were talking about like, there's these really rich people um that, just say like take my class and do that. I think I think coming from a like a doctor standpoint a little bit as well as kind of what I believe. I think what really shifted for me was like this class called the Science of Well-being and, it's like talking about all those major things, like, what do you think you really value? And they would look at like if you got an A plus or a C plus, like would your happiness change at all? And it was like very minor. Um, but I think that comes back to when you look at these things on Instagram and these like the really rich folk, you gotta recognize. I think like I don't know this exact statistic. It's like 1% or like 2% of all wealth, like the top, like all the money, like 98% of wealth or 90% of wealth is held between 2% of the population, right? And like you are comparing yourself to an anomaly, right? And that's like something that's really hard to do and really unfair. And just gonna like we kind of come back to it's gonna feed your imposter syndrome. Also, it's like, are you that? There's probably characteristics of that person that's not going to let you be that way. Um, but that's just kind of my take. Like, I think what we should focus on is more what works for most people. Like you wanna take the success chance. Like if I was a treatment and I came up to you, I was like, you know, this treatment works for 1 out of 100 people, and this treatment works for 80 out of 100 people. Which one would you take? Right. And I think a lot of times when we go on Instagram, we're looking at the 1 in the 100, but very little, I think, when we're so getting to this, like what do you call this? Like this short media, we're just like attuned to the 1 out of 100, when really the more boring thing, the more thing that will bring value is that 80 out of 100. And, we can see that in day to day life. Like, do you want to spend the time to, do the hard thing, go to a new event, try to make some friends? Or do you want to sit at home and just scroll mindlessly, right? One's going to give you that hit, one's going to take a little bit more work, but you know that it's going to be okay. Like, I mean, it's going to be better in the end.
Something that I think
But
is interesting is sorry, I want you to
yeah, go
finish,
ahead.
but I do think it's important to call out that people get lost in this hedonistic 1% wealth porn that is thrown at them 24/7. What they've
Mm,
fully missed is that the original philosophy and like the Epicurean concept was you have to pick the right pleasures. You don't pick just like just don't pick like the easy, quick, instant gratification. You pick the thing that's going to provide you long term happiness. And so, even these people who, like Dan Bilzerian's a good example. He's an easy person to just dunk on for no reason because he's horrible. I don't know if you know who Dan Bilzerian is, but
no.
yeah, he's just like he's that exact concept. He's like millions upon millions of dollars allegedly. He lives in a giant mansion. He's with all these girls, and he's like, "Oh, I could do this. Why can't you?" It's like total setup for imposter syndrome. He's the worst human being. And then you think about it after the fact, it's like he's not setting himself up for any real success because he a was didn't earn that money. He was given it, and then he's basically just a talking point for a couple interest groups, but other than that, he doesn't do anything. Like he just doesn't have a real accomplishment at the end of the day. I don't think he has kids. I don't think he's married. I think he really just like hangs out with those models and lives in the mansions and just kind of coasts off of somebody else's success because they're telling him we need you
Mm,
to do this thing. So in a sense, it's a very shallow life that I'll just call him an influencer. He's intended to be an influencer.
hmm.
It's a very shallow life that he lives. It's not real. Like it is fully manufactured. He can't at the end of the day walk home and say, I picked the right set of devices to give me long-term pleasure. Like he didn't do that. He didn't challenge himself to go to med school. He didn't challenge himself to do some of these other things. He claims that he did Navy SEAL training, but he never became a Navy SEAL. So
Mm,
he can't hold that piece either. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of dishonesty in the social media doom scroll concept as well. And I think that's the other thing too, that what you're saying earlier, community is huge. Like if you're with real people, and I think the Midwest is actually great about this. If
hmm.
you find your community and you find people, they will take care of you and they will like you can collectively be together and help each other. And it's very therapeutic to help somebody else too.
Hmm.
That's not talked about very often. But I cut you off. Sorry. I just wanted to get in that quick philosophy point.
No, no, I think I think that's a great point, and it comes back to like sometimes it's great because like I don't know, like it's like life experiences. I read a lot, so like sometimes, and I was like I think for like past 5 years or so, I was really into kind of like the self improvement kind of literature that was out there, and so it's so fascinating to me of like the points because like also I make like Anki cards for it, so, like, I kinda remember, but it's so fascinating how you come to the point that I read, you know what I mean? I'm like, "Oh," like, it's, like, reaffirmed by, like, Bill's experiences reaffirmed it, right? And it's, like, just like you said, it's, like and, like, one of the things is by Ali Abdaal, I don't remember the book name, it's somewhere in my collection, but he said, like, a lot of times, like, you feel therapeutic and good from, like, helping other people, and, like, maybe it's just an obvious statement too, like, it is an obvious statement, but some people, like, sometimes, like, "Why help people?" Right? But I was like, "Oh, Bill came to that," and then I was like, "You're also an outsider too. You're like an East Coast person, and like to go to the Midwest, and you're like, I really do appreciate this community, and like helping each other helps everybody. It's very therapeutic." Um, no, I think that's a great point, and I think what we're kind of landing on here is this idea of for like, currently, I think it looks like we're kind of on that same page, is, like, there's a lot of cheap dopamine out there. There's a lot of cheap, easy wins that you can do. You can surround yourself with, like, cheap, easy stuff or just do activities that are not putting in the hard work, right? Like, I think of it like a dieting sense, like, it feels really good to drink a Coke. It feels really good, and then in moderation, it's fine, right? I'm not saying you can't. Or, like, it feels really good to eat, like, a bag of chips, right? Or, like, a bag of Cheetos, right? But I think at the same time, you gotta do we gotta challenge ourselves to do the hard work and not start to spiral down. Because I think and there's so many studies out there, and this is not a neuroscience podcast. You can watch Andrew Huberman, you can watch anybody else. But there's a lot of studies out there that things about how your brain is rewired once you start chasing the cheap dopamine. And I think what you said is really important, right? It's like you gotta you gotta do the things that challenge yourself, both like and then this is kind of now geared towards our younger folk, but like when you're picking a career, when you're picking a partner, when you're picking where to live or you're picking what you want to do, like do things that are enjoyable but also like challenge you to the same time. Like I think if there's like a razor in life, I think like which one is it? Like will this challenge me and make me grow versus will this make me stagnant and comfortable? And you should always go towards the like in most cases, you should chase the one that says like, "Will this make me a little bit uncomfortable and grow?" Especially this time. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I think that your young 20s, like, if I look back at myself when I was in sophomore or like junior year of college or even high school, I'm like, I barely recognize the guy because he just lived through so much more.
Yeah. Yeah, the life experience is drastically different, which is fair. I think that's true of a lot of different aspects of the world too. You have a lot more experience in the education world just because you've been in school a little bit longer than me, and I have a little bit more corporate experience just because I've been in corporate America for now 3 years. So it is a little bit different, but you're also correct. Like you should challenge yourself. And the thing that I tell people, especially people who get on my team now, is like, don't be afraid to fail. Like, like you need to have like some room for failure, and it's okay. The whole point is that you also need to learn from it. And I think that's the piece that people really miss is they're so caught up in the not self-pity, but just like the self-frustration of I made this mistake. How am I ever gonna recover from this? How am I gonna build back my reputation? It's like, dude, I talked to a CEO like 3 weeks ago who made like 12 mistakes in one day. And you know what? She was just like, I learned from all of them. And then to her credit, like A, she's like super smart anyway, so she knows what she's talking about. But then like she immediately like course corrected and pulled the troops together to get a fix in place. So these things happen. You know, every good business leader, every good doctor has made mistakes. For the doctors, hopefully it's more med school, which it's a little bit easier to recover
Dude, I see
from.
you smiling, but my audio is cutting out. So I don't know what like you saw a doctor and then I just didn't hear the rest.
Oh no, has my audio been bad the entire time?
No, no, no. It's just like in spurts. I think it's my AirPods, to be honest with you.
Mm,
But
okay.
what you're saying that last part is like even as a doctor, and then
Yeah,
you
the TLDR is, you know, I would rather people make mistakes early and when there's like room for you to make a mistake. So in your early 20s is a perfect example. Like you have the time to make mistakes. You know, you still got time. I think you could even make the argument that through your 20s and 30s you have time to make mistakes. Like it's okay, especially when you're new to something. But like the way you challenge and grow is don't get discouraged by nonstop mistakes as long as you're learning from them.
mm,
If it's a new thing each time, it's like, okay, well, I didn't build the Excel sheet right because I forgot to do this. Okay, I will do that in the future. Next time, I didn't build the PowerPoint deck correct because I forgot to set timeline. Okay, I'll set the timeline next time. If it's a new thing each time, that's okay. But learn from the mistake first. And that's what I was the tie around to the doctors is I would hope that they're doing that in med school and not in the operating room when it's like, uh-oh.
yeah,
That's not good.
yeah. I think that's where they do it really great because like medical school is inherent. Like you slowly get more and more responsibility, and as you get through, I think that's the thing that like I kind of realized because initially, you kind of have the idea of like, why is this so long, right? And then, like, as a first year, you're just like, why? But like when I talk to a resident, which is like in between after you graduate and like get your job, they're like, I am so scared to go out in the real world, right? And then like here I am, I'm like, why do we need residency? It's like because like they're just kind of the structure. You're like a little bit you're paid less than an actual attending, but it kind of makes sense now because like you get that oversight, you get the chance to learn, you get that chance to make mistakes and that are fixable. That are fixable. No, you're not. No, that are generally fixable. So I think that's why because like an attending will
Shoot,
over,
I got rid of his brain. That's on me, guys. Not gonna get rid of the brain next time.
huh?
I'll fix it.
Oh yeah. But, like, even before, you're like, "Should I do this?" Because like, your first steps are like a training wheel, like, you're not allowed to do anything, you're just allowed to tell me what you plan to do, and then you're
Yeah,
like, "Alright, your plans are sound, alright, you can start doing them," and then it's like, "Imma watch you do them to make sure you don't mess it up," and then you start to it's kinda like training wheels to a certain extent, and I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of making mistakes. I will push back on one statement that you made, and
yeah,
I think
please.
I think I think you were kinda get like correct, but like I just wanna just to make it more broad. It's like 20s and 30s are great times to make mistakes because like you have so much time out there, right? But that does not mean that's the only time you can make mistakes. I feel like no matter where you are in life, it is okay to make mistakes. But I will say, I think it's a great thing my dad said. He's like, the younger you are, the better the time to make mistakes because you can learn from them, right? Because some mistakes aren't, let's say, fixable when you get down to 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, right? You make a mistake of not knowing how to ride your bike and you break your hip when you're 70. It's a lot worse than when you like break your hip at like 2 or like 5 years old, right? Because like you're just able to recover a bit better. But I do agree the sentiment. Like I think the younger you are, the better it is. And especially 20s, your young 20s and 30s, where you're now out in the world, you're making money, you are like, your parents aren't watching you. You don't really have that much more guidance. It's a time to kind of learn to fail. But like you said, I think that's a big thing. I think that's something that we're like, oh, like I think a lot of times in this, like, I don't know how you call this. Like, I would say more understanding culture, because before it's a little bit less understanding. And this more understanding culture is like, oh, it's okay to fail. I'm like, yes. But like, don't forget the second point that Bill made is you gotta learn from your failures, right? Or learn from your mistakes. I think sometimes like, oh, I failed, that's great. I'm like, but you gotta pick up the pieces. You gotta take the pieces and, like, put back that puzzle or try to build something new. Because I think that's, like, the big thing that we're missing.
100%. 100%. We talked about this yesterday too, but another like helpful tool for that that people I don't think capitalize on very often is journaling. It is super helpful if you want to like walk things back and if you just need to vent for a second. Because sometimes, you're heated after something happens. So process the emotions on the paper and then you can say, okay, well, I actually need to correct this or I need to change this about myself in order to learn and grow from it. That's totally fair. And I do that. I do that all the time. I know a bunch
Mhm,
of people who are like very successful who have done that. I know people who are on a really impressive path of growth who were struggling earlier on. And now they're through that, have found a lot of ways to find success and make some personal improvements to their life, which is cool. So I'm such a huge proponent. Definitely worthwhile.
yeah. Dude, I totally agree with you, and then I mean,
One
I
sec.
was
I'm
kind
getting I'm getting a knock on the door.
go ahead. This is our, brief intermission. But while Bill goes on that door, I wanna thank everyone for listening, and, if you have any comments or questions, we're always happy to answer them, and leave them in the comment section or wherever I'm pretty sure we're posting this on YouTube. Anyways, while you're gone, I think I totally agree with you. I think we had this conversation months ago, and then you were talking about starting about journaling. And I was like to myself, I was like, oh, I do that, right? And I usually do like daily reflections on a computer and like in my Notion page. But honestly, I feel like I just started like with a pen and paper, and this is what kind of opened my eyes to a certain extent. Like, there's just some things that are simpler. Like, the only thing I don't like about this, to a certain degree, but I've also like used AI a little bit to like reflect. Sometimes it's just like some things don't need a response, right? Because when you type something in, they're going to give you a response. And then also it depends. This is a whole other discussion on like how you code a chatbot or the skills. Because like sometimes if you just use raw ChatGPT, they'll do something, but you can also customize it. But I think there's just something good about writing down your thoughts, like going back to simpler times. I think this is like the best ROI an example of, like, returning to simple times. I think we're so especially in the digital age, like, you open your phone, there are, like, 30 notifications in the morning, or you go on Instagram, they have massive amounts of research and funding spent to make you addicted to your cell phone, right? Or on their application. And this is just simple. It's you, it's a pen, it's a paper, and you just need to think about how am I feeling today? What am I looking forward to today? Or whatever it is that you want to do today. And it's just easy, right? But like you said, I'll give a second plug for it. Journaling. I was put on by Bill Drake. He's the first one. I was kind of doing it, but I'm telling you, everyone, don't typing it still doesn't work. Using your text to speech thing, yeah, you can talk faster and you can write you down your faster, but it's maybe kind of like that book. Like there's a slow thinking process and there's a fast thinking process. And I think when it comes to journaling, it's all about kind of utilizing your slow thinking. And you're like, what am I thinking today? What can I do better? What are the lessons that I learned? And I think that's another thing. Like I don't know if you do it yet, but and this is kind of like it now, is on Sundays I'll usually take an hour to kind of reflect upon my week. But sometimes it started feeling like a chore, and I'm just like I'm doing it because I've been doing it for so long, and maybe it's helpful, maybe it's not. Um, but like just taking some time to designate, just to slow down your life and think about what am I doing? Is it in line with the values that I have? Is it to the person that I want to be? Is it the people that I'm with? I think all those questions are like really great ones to stop, take your stop the ride of life for a little bit and figure out is this what you really want to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Do you feel too, after you do that reflection, a little bit more at peace?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So, my family does something that I'm actually really happy that we do, which is we try and FaceTime like the collective I have one older brother, so it's like me, my parents, and him, but we try and collectively FaceTime together once a week. I'll give you a second to get back. But that's been really cool too, and I actually really appreciate that just because it does force me to reevaluate my week because obviously my parents are curious. They're like, "What did you do? Like, how was your week? Like, how did things go?" And then I get to learn about what they did. I get to learn about what my brother did, but then I also get to share my piece as well, which
Hmm.
has been helpful for like keeping connection with the family. And I've gotten a lot of both intrinsic and extrinsic value out of that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like I wish we did that. I think one of the biggest things, well, it depends on like where you grow up, but like I have like five siblings and all of them are in
Yeah, I was
different
gonna say
parts of
you
the
have a little
world.
bit of a bigger family.
Yeah, yeah, it's like yeah, it's hard, but I feel like I'd wish and value that like that's a really incredible thing that you guys are just having to be able to like have a sit down time. And then not only is it like helping everyone in terms of their processing and being able to share, but it builds that bond like so much stronger.
100%. 100%. I am convinced that that is one of the things that makes my parents feel so much more connected to me and my brother, which is helpful because I see we're in such different parts of the country. It's very difficult for me to get out to them consistently.
Yeah.
So I'd like it's basically just holidays and family events is when I see them in
Mm.
person. Um, so whenever whenever I do go to those things, it doesn't feel like we have to like reinvent the wheel and play like 6 months catch up. Like I
Ah,
feel like
okay.
my relationship with them is a lot stronger because we can talk about, well, hey, how did everything go at work last week with that big presentation? Do you feel good about it? And like we cut right to the chase instead of having to build up a bunch of background, which for me is
Yeah.
really helpful because I sometimes hate waiting. I want to get right to the punchline immediately. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I will shout out. You do this a crazy cool thing that I maybe we'll do this year, maybe not. We'll kind of see. But you do these like Christmas letters, and it's like, and it's funny because it's 100% in your voice. It's not just so our listeners.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
like
not
a.
AI.
It's not AI. It's not like a Christmas card. It is Bill like writing down his life this past year with like five or six great pictures of his life, and some of them that are like, wow, he had a really great time that day. Um, and it's just and it's a great way to catch up. I don't like even if I had a question, I was like, "What do you do up to in your life?" I just pull out that Christmas card. I actually save them too. I save them, but I don't know where they are. But like, and you do have the PDF files of them too, so like I can always
Yeah,
ask for
yeah.
them. But like, I think that is so cool, and I think even for you, like that is kind of your reflection sit down time. You're like, what happened this past year? And maybe it's not to the question of like, what am I doing with my life? But it's like, hey, like what was my life? And I think that's also equally as important. Like, because we can just do so much and then you kind of forget all the accomplishments and all the memories you've made. And so I think that's probably a really cool thing to do.
I talking about community again, that was a lesson that I took from my dad, because
Mm.
he built that up in the '80s and '90s where we didn't have cell phones, and it was basically
Mm.
just through snail mail that you were able to keep in contact with people. And so he was traveling a lot, so he has friends in all parts of the country. How do you keep contact with so many different people and have a way to form a relationship? Well, you can share that Christmas letter.
Yeah.
And I think for me that was actually really helpful too, because I was able to more or less parse out who I was actually going to want to keep in contact with. So the
Mm.
first year out of college, it's pretty easy. Like you reach out to all your college friends and like family and family friends. Easy. But then the second year is when you like start getting more friends from work and you get these other people. And sometimes people just don't really respond back when you say, hey, do you live at the same address? And for
Wow.
me, that was good to know because I was like, okay, these people are probably like either A, going through something crazy, or B,
Yeah.
like we're not going to keep contact, which is totally
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But I've been very pleasantly surprised by how many people. I mean, obviously, our friends from Vandy who we have that 4-person group chat in. Um, but then there's other people too where I'm always impressed. I'm like, wow, I'm really glad that we're actually able to keep contact like this. And I've gotten a couple Christmas cards back too, which has been kind of nice.
Hey, you're getting one from me this year. Most likely.
Yeah, there
Most
we
likely,
go.
I will this first half of the year has been such a blur, though. I'm not sure what you're gonna get, but, you know, I'll share them. What was I about to say, though?
Pick 2 or 3 key stories is my advice, and
Oh, okay.
then just kind of, like, build off of it. So, the one I did last year I really liked because we had that trip to California with some of my friends from high school, and that was fun because, um I had, like, a bunch of photos, but I also it really wasn't, like, a long story. It was a very quick one where we just were out in California. We're, like, seeing different parts of the state, and it's such a big state. So, I'm able to, like, zoom in on a couple little details, but then add color to the rest of the year, which was also pretty unique and cool. So, yeah.
There you go, folks. How to draft a Bill Drake-like Christmas letter 101.
It's a two-page back-to-back letter. So, you have to, because
Was it 2
it's tough
page?
fitting in.
I thought it's 1 page. Well, oh, like, back to back it's like one it's print on 1 page, but
One
back to back.
page, but you
Yeah.
have content on both sides. And that also is kind of fun because A, we're saving trees, which is always good. But B, you get you get a lot more. I think you get a lot more value. It's not too long, it's not too
Yep.
short. It's like just the right amount to understand what's going on, but also have fun with it.
Exactly, and it's like a year too, like, I'd be surprised you wrap up your year in, like, one side of the paper, you know what I mean? I feel like
Yeah.
there needs to
Then
be
it would be a
more.
very
What?
sad Christmas letter.
My year this year, January to
Nothing.
December, just that.
100%.
I will say it's, like, kinda one of those nice things too because, like, it's a physical thing. I feel like we've gone so digital. I think there's some things that should be digital, but there's some things, like, I feel like maybe books. Like, I don't like do you remember back in the day in 6th grade where you'd be, like, having those, like, chunky math books you'd put in your back? Like, my gosh, like, some kids probably got scoliosis because of that or something, or, like, stunted growth. But
Yeah.
now it's, like, you know, like, it's all digital. But, like, I honestly feel like the things that make us productive this may be a hot take right now, but it's a slight take I'm taking. Things that make us productive should be digital or make us, like, more productive, right? But the things that have connected us, we should move away to be more manual. So, like,
Vinyl records.
connection. Maybe that. If you're like, let's say, like, you're listening with a group of friends, like, yeah. But I don't know. I listen to
I
Spotify.
think they're coming back.
Vinyl records. So, like, I was thinking more of like hangouts. Like you can hang out playing video games and maybe do it in person, or like play sports again together, or like meet up at a restaurant or at a certain place, and meet up at a buddy's house, or just write people's like how do we connect to each other? Like a text is just a text these days. Like it's so easy to send, but maybe write them a letter, right? I think those are like the things that are important.
Do you wanna
That
know
was
the
my
cheat
take,
code to that in-person thing? Is intramural sports.
dude.
I'm in
Yeah.
a volleyball league, I'm in a basketball league, and I almost got into a badminton league off of your recommendation.
Dude,
The o
I'm still
the only
telling you.
the only
Do it.
limitation was just time.
That's
I
fair,
couldn't cut
that's
out my
fair.
volleyball league on Tuesdays, but yeah,
No.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's okay. One day I'll convince you to go to the dark side, or I'll just join you in volleyball too. I feel like I've also just, like, gone to a bunch of different sports, but
Yeah. Between volleyball and pickleball, like, there's a bunch of opportunities to play it in young cities and even just, like, rural areas,
yeah.
and the barrier to entry is super low for both.
Mhm.
You really don't need to know that much about either sport. Obviously, you can get, like, more advanced. I can't believe
Yeah,
there's professional pickleball now. That feels like an oxymoron, but I think I think there's it's cool though because there's a low barrier to entry, so
yeah.
anybody can pick it up and slowly build the skills and find friends through it. So I think that part's
Mm.
great.
Yeah, I think that's, like, how I made I was, on away rotation at University of California, Irvine this past month, and
Mm,
then I just played some pickleball with a few medical students, and they're, like, my friends for life. I was like, "Wow, these people are fantastic." And,
right?
right, it's just a low
Yeah.
barrier to entry because, like, there's just something to do, like, it's not just, like, this awkward, like, sitting down and talking to each other for a little bit, although we did do
Yeah.
that eventually.
Yeah.
It's just, like, a easy way to, like, make friends in that.
But then you probably go out and get lunch with them after the fact and hang out. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly, exactly.
Exactly.
And then you have
But
like
you
this community of friends.
Yeah, but you need that entry because, like, right now, people are like, I don't even know you that much, like, I don't wanna sit" like, it feels like a very big engagement to, like, go sit down and get lunch. But if you already passed the vibe check already of, like, playing pickleball, like, "Oh, this guy's, like, friendly, and he's, like, super chill," like, I'd love to get him to know him more, or girl or guy, doesn't matter. Um, then that's, like, an easy way, right? So I think that's the highlights. I think you're passing on your wisdom. Christmas letters. I am sports. And even if you're bad at sports or don't like playing sports, pick the ones that have, like, very low barrier to entry. Like, you could be good at pickleball very easily, I feel, or just be decent, right? It's like but anyways, I don't know why we're hating on it. It's a great sport. I'm not
I'm not hating on it. I
we
just
can
think it's
never
funny.
reduce our sponsorships, okay? We can get a sponsorship from Sunkirk or something, just gotta but we speak our true
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
We speak our true mind.
We
Well,
have to be authentic. Authentically us.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that's the big thing. I was really inspired by the story of Dude Perfect. You know who Dude Perfect is, right? And I think they were met with, like, a multi-million-dollar sponsorship from Budweiser, but they, like, came back to, like, their values, and they're all Christian, and they're like, "Do we wanna endorse beer to our young viewers?" And they're like, "No." I like, that's something that's against our vision. So I think that's the same thing too. I think what we give here, I think that is what the Midwest does to a certain degree. A little bit of passive aggressiveness and a lot of authenticity and community. But, I think that is the story of the Midwest Bros in that sense.
Yes. 100%. Eloquent way to end the pod.
I know, I was gonna say, I think we're coming up on an hour here, and I think we've said our piece. There was some stuff that we didn't even introduce ourselves. That was the funniest thing. Like this, we were talking through an
We
hour,
kind of beat
and
around the bush for who we
we
are.
even yeah, like who we are. I think it got there. So oh, you're corporate, I'm medical, and then we'll get there. But yeah, we have some points that we probably did talk about this time that we can do probably the next episode. You want probably a weekly
Yeah.
thing? I think it'd be a good time
Weekly
to.
sounds great to me.
All right, perfect. Well, you want to do the outro? I don't know what our outro is going to be. I haven't even planned it.
Yeah. No, we can just make it up as we go. So thanks everybody for listening and we'll catch you all next week.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.